Hi everyone, welcome to Historically Speaking, an online YouTube history channel focused on the history of various institutions and professionals, how history intersects with education and culture in the world around us. I'm Karen Yang, host of Historically Speaking. Today we have a very special guest. Joining us is Michael Dukakis. Governor Dukakis is a distinguished professor of political science at Northeastern University. He was the governor of Massachusetts from 1974 to 1978, and then again from 1982 to 1990. He has a really great, or had a really great career in terms of political career, working in local government and in state government. He was the Massachusetts Democratic Party nominee for lieutenant governor in 1970. And he was also the Democratic nominee for president in 1988. In addition to being a professor at Northeastern, he's also a visiting professor at the School of Public Policy at UCLA. Governor Dukakis, is there anything else you'd like to add about yourself or anything else you'd like to add in general?
Yes, I've had a great life in so many ways. I'm blessed with a wonderful family.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Everybody who runs for office ought to be as lucky as I am.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Wonderful kids and a flock of grandkids, so it's been quite a ways. To say that I'm concerned about the current political situation in the United States and the world would be an understatement. I'm very concerned about outstanding public service, but I am very concerned and try very hard to encourage young people like me at public service as a career. And I love teaching. Once I finish my training for office, I taught 19 years at Northeastern, and a wonderful experience there. I love teaching these young people. Many of them are now gone into public service. Two of my UCLA students are now members of Congress. So it gives you some sense of just how committed I am to this, but I am concerned about some of the things we're seeing in American politics these days. I would love to see as many of you as possible get deeply active in
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. First of all, thank you for that really great message. I definitely think that some of the questions we're going to cover today have to do with, I guess, finding any parallels between your time in, as an acting leader in Massachusetts and in the nation with our times today and just any parallels you see with that. But I first want to start out with a question of, you've definitely taken a lot of really daring decisions in your career, leading the state of Massachusetts and then representing a larger population across the nation. How have you faced that backlash and held true to your convictions and essentially bounced back from failures?
To begin with, I started at a relatively low level. I think can be helpful. I was a town meeting member in the town of Brookline, which is kind of an interesting office to hold. You don't get paid. You meet 6 times a year as part of a body of 240 people in this town of about 60,000. But that's where I began, and I think it was particularly helpful for me to begin at that level. And it was only after a few years as a member of the town meeting, by the way, you're not paid or any of that kind of stuff. It's just a voluntary job. It's a job that carries with it the power of a local legislature, basically 240. I then decided to run for the state legislature. And went out and literally rang every single doorbell in the town of Brooklyn, more than once. And was fortunate enough to be elected. And that was a paid job, not a huge amount, but I think it was a paid job. You were a member of essentially the municipal legislature for your town or city. And so that's where I began. And I think starting at that level was important.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a chance to make my mistakes when they were small. Had a chance to spend a lot of time with people who were themselves members of this interesting town legislature, if you will. And kind of gradually develop the kind of skills that are needed to be effective.
Mhm.
Um, and that was very important. I think if I had kind of jumped into this at a very high level, I probably would have made a lot more mistakes.
Mhm.
But making the mistakes when they're small is a good idea if you're going to move up at all. And so I was in the state legislature for 8 years, and then ran for lieutenant governor as the running mate for Kevin White, who was the mayor of the city of Boston at the time. But we were defeated in that election by a Republican ticket. And I think it was my wife that said, I think it was all over the top. I said, I think it's going to run for the attorney general. And
Mhm.
I was a lawyer, and the position was open. And he, look, I'm willing to go through this with you, but not for attorney general. If you're going to run for governor. It's very complicated. But I did. And I got elected at a very difficult time in the history of Massachusetts. The state was in bad shape. The
Mhm.
economy was in terrible shape. So we had lots of older industrial communities that were hurting very badly. And
Mhm.
high rates of unemployment. State. And I worked my head off with very good people to try to revive the state's economy and come back. And if you can believe it, this was about less than 2 months to go. I was leading my Democratic opponent in the primary by
Mhm.
40 points, and I lost to him.
Oh.
That was quite a learning experience. Very disappointing. Everybody thought I was going to win. I mean, 40 points ahead with 5 weeks to go. Easy. Um, very disappointing. But I saw this as a way to spend some time thinking about why did I lose, under what circumstances, why were the things that I did that didn't make sense. I was a pretty good talker, I wasn't a very good listener. And the guy that beat me in the primary subsequently, he had his own problems.
Mhm.
After a year or two, I decided I was going to run again against him. And it was hard, strong, grassroots-based effort. And I beat him in the primary and then was elected for 2 more terms. So I ended up serving for 12 years, a long time.
Mhm. Yeah.
It was a very disappointing first defeat after my first term. Uh, but one of the things that happens to you is that you learn from your experiences, including your defeats. And I became a much better governor the second time around.
Mm.
So, Massachusetts started coming back. The work that we were doing was made a difference. And one of the things that is true in a state like this is that you get lots and lots of talented people who will never work for you if they think that you really want to go out for a job. So I was blessed the second time around with a
Mhm.
wonderful team of folks, and really had a great experience. Ran for the presidency, unfortunately lost in 1948, and then decided to teach and taught at Northeastern University for 19 years, with one quarter out of UCLA. And that too was very important.
Mhm.
I love teaching, love working with young people. In fact, two of my UCLA students are now members of Congress.
Wow.
So I've had a good experience, love teaching, and finally decided at the age of 87 that it was time maybe to wrap it up. So I'm no longer teaching, but it's been a lot of life for me, and I'm still actively involved and will continue to be actively involved. So There we are. And I'll be 90 another year.
Oh my gosh, congrats. Yeah,
So I'm still on my feet and taking nourishment. Anyway, lots of lessons learned during the course of all of that. And,
yeah.
and
Oh,
I'm somebody who really works hard to encourage young people to learn about life. I do. It's something that you guys
yeah.
can do well. So think about that.
That's been such a really great career. I love how you really emphasize how you really started relatively local, but just kept, growing with experience and learning from a lot of different people to eventually, take on bigger and bigger roles. And I also really liked how I think like when I was reading up about your career trajectory and just how how the different years that you were governor had different situations and different circumstances. I think it's also super interesting to see that that I love how even in your second round of being governor again, you said that you were very much, able to learn from the first round. And I feel that that's such an important thing to, realize from your own personal history and from history as a whole to kind of understand how to better apply a lot of these lessons to today's generation.
One of the things that I learned the second time around was to be a good consensus builder. As I said earlier, I was pretty good talker. I wasn't a very good listener.
Mm,
Had been thinking seriously, okay, so what happened because of this? Why didn't you do the roads you should have? You were way at the polls and all that kind of stuff. And some of it had to do with not listening enough. So the second time around, much better listener, a much better consensus builder, all that stuff was that, rare exceptions, if you reach out to people and bring them into the process and say, look, I need you, I want you to be a part of this, even if you did support it. I mean, this is not that you do a lot of good things. Some people do a lot of good things in reality. And that was a very important lesson that I learned. It's painful the first time around, but in the last analysis, an important and constructive lesson.
yeah, that's a really good point. I think like that was something I noticed again. And I saw that you really believed in this idea of consensus building with people finding common ground to really come together and have a lot of serious discussions about the problem, just instead of accusing one another, agreeing on the problem and discussing ways to kind of mitigate that issue. How can you? I think like another thing that I've noticed about what you're really passionate about is ensuring that a lot of these young people get a chance to engage in these discussions and engage in these ideas. Um, how do you think young people, especially, can facilitate, consensus building and partake in consensus building?
Well, my example was a pretty good one. I was not a consensus builder. I was a reformer. The state of Massachusetts had serious problems with corruption problems, with all kinds of stuff. New Jersey has had some of those same problems as well.
Mm-hmm.
But although we now has as a governor, a really good guy who grew up in Newton, Massachusetts. He's the governor, the mayor of Massachusetts. So he turned him over to you guys, and he's kind of a good job. But bringing people into the process, listening to it, involving them actively, constructively, makes a big difference. It certainly made a difference in my case, and was a very important lesson that I learned. Painfully, but I learned it. Went on to do a much better job, be a much better government secretary.
Yeah, that's a really, really great point. I think that a lot of students my age are not necessarily are still trying to number one learn about the issues that they really care about and that really concern them. And I think that a lot of people, I think even with our different backgrounds and our different interests, are still kind of utilizing, social media or utilizing the classroom a lot to talk about these really, really important issues and find ways to, as you said, agree and use consensus rather than necessarily being a reformer. But I think there's a good balance to be found with these two things, and I think that.
By the way, one of the things I discovered was that, well, if the governor asked them to participate, even
Mhm.
if they weren't Democrats, they weren't my party and stuff, but they had a real interest in the state's future. I never remember anybody saying, "Screw the governor, I'm not interested." If the governor asked them, they wanted to be a part of
Yeah. Yeah, I think like I'll head on to the next question, and that is, from your experience, do you see any parallels in politics or in the world around us from your time as governor or your time running for president, and our current state of affairs, I guess? So yeah, do you see any parallels between these two time periods?
it. Have things changed? Essentially, is it different? Um, yeah, it's changed largely. I hate to keep coming back to this guy, but it's changed largely because of Trump. I mean, this is an approach to politics and public service that I don't support. I don't like. Uh, and what I discovered was is that if you reached out to people and brought them into the process, uh,
Mm-hmm.
with very rare exceptions, they would play very constructive roles, even if they hadn't supported it. Now, that's not Trump's approach to politics, needless to say. And it's one of the reasons why I get defeated. But looks as if he's going to run again, so here we go again. We'll see what. But I found people, if you reached out to folks and said, "Look, I need your help. I want you to be part of this." Um, I never remember. I never remember anybody saying, "Screw you, governor, I'm not interested." If the governor asked them, they were willing to participate, and they did very effectively. So lessons learned. Lessons learned.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how you keep reiterating the idea of like lessons learned, and definitely how I do agree. Certainly, like our recent presidents and the recent political figures that have largely, taken lead of the country have definitely changed the way that we think about politics and the way that we relate to politics. And I think it's really interesting to see that there's definitely so many lessons to be learned from the past and from your own experience with, consensus building and utilizing, different, I guess, political techniques or different compromises to get essentially legislature that will be more impactful and more helpful to different people.
And let me say this also. I didn't find that what it required was compromising.
Mhm.
What it required was public officials from the government on down listening to people and,
Mhm.
then constructively in what we were doing. And we ended up with better policy than if we hadn't done that.
Mhm.
And part of Trump's problem is that he's not a consensus voter. Doesn't understand this. And the lesson I learned was reach out to people, invite them into the process, listen to them, make them a part of the solution. You'll be successful, and the policy will be successful.
Yeah.
Very, very important lesson. Very important lesson.
Yeah, 100%. I guess one last question would be, I don't know how much like you personally utilize social media or, pay attention to social media, I guess. But do you feel like social media has had like an impact on political campaigning and politics and the way that we kind of can build consensus or relate to one another?
I'm probably the last guy to ask this question because I don't spend any time on social media. I haven't the time to read the New York Times every day, let alone spend time on social media. And yet I understand that it plays a very important role in public life these days. Uh, so maybe it's going to have to be somebody else who explains to you what it's all about. All I can tell you is this. Um, reaching out to people, involving them actively, listening to them, all kinds of stuff. That doesn't mean that you never tune into social media, but so much of social media strikes me as a little crazy to tell you the truth.
Mhm. Mhm.
You've got people sounding off all the time, and many cases are all the time. So it isn't that we should never pay attention to media, but the important thing is to reach out and involve people actively in the process. And
Mhm.
that's governor you can do because you are the governor.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that at this time. Second thing, my advice to people is reach out to folks, bring them into the process, make them a part of the solution, and you do well. And don't spend too much time doing the social media.
Yeah, I think that's a really great message. I think definitely a lot of people my age, again, find a lot of news from social media. And while I guess, as you said, it can be a really great facet, it should not be, I guess, like the whole kind of realm that we get a lot of our news and a lot of discussion from.
But when people have time for it, I mean, I basically have time to read the newspapers. I mean, I'm always just so deeply active and involved. And I found that bringing people into the process and listening to them made an enormous difference. And my advice to anybody coming on is do that, do that. Involve people actively, listen to them. You'll be a better public servant, and they will play a much more important role. And, it took a long time to learn it, but when I learned it, turned out that it does make a difference. Anyway, I want you to keep in touch.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much.
Happy
Yeah,
to do it. And you know how to get a hold of me. You know,
yes.
I'm glad you guys, maybe somebody to you. And stay in touch. I'd love to work with you. And
Yeah, of course. Thank you
always
so much.
be
Yeah. Thank you to everyone at home watching this video. I'll see you in the next one, and thank you, Governor Dukakis, again, once again.
anytime. Keep in close touch.